Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024, and I call this meeting to order. We'll start off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and to start off with a vote request for CarMass Motors Corp., DBA CarMass, for a Class 2 dealer license to operate at 575 Providence Highway. Gentlemen, welcome. You want to come up just a moment? So just, I think it's pretty straightforward, but if you could introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing and when you're going to start doing it, it'd be great.
Sure. My name is Mahmoud Terim. I'm 35 years old. So I live in Quincy already, and so I want to have car business at that location. So there is already a car business. I'm going to keep all the things same, and so hopefully I will have my dealer's license and then start the proceed all the things out.
Great, and this will start in the new year?
Oh, yes.
Great. Well, welcome to Walpole.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? We can make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request of CarMass Motor Corp. for a Class 2 dealer license at 575 Providence Highway, effective January 1st, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Good luck. Thank you.
All right, let's jump right into the Police Chief Quarterly Report. Chief Kelleher, welcome. You've been busy?
Hi, good evening. Oops, sorry about that. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'll jump into the more notable incidents that have taken place in town since we last met in September. On the 5th of September, we had a drug investigation culminate in Walpole. It started in another community. Our detectives work with NORPAC Detectives, which is a regional task force, to investigate these cases. Information was relayed to our officers, and we worked together with them to take off a pretty significant drug dealer in town. Fentanyl, powder and crack cocaine, as well as oxycodone was seized, significant amounts of it, as well as some cash, and charges were filed for trafficking in Class A and B substances. So good work with our detectives and regional officers on that case. We had a pedestrian crash at Main Street and Front Street on September 13th. Relatively minor injuries to the victim, but the suspect vehicle did take off from the scene. It was a black pickup truck believed to be a Dodge Ram with a partial Mass license plate. Area canvas didn't reveal anything that came up when they checked video and witnesses, but through further investigation, they will locate a vehicle in Walpole that had a similar registration, although upon speaking with the owner of that vehicle, they were not involved in that case at all, and unfortunately the case had to be suspended at that point with no additional leads. But the victim was okay, minor injuries, but we were not able to charge anyone in that incident. On October 11th, we had a commercial breaking and entering at 100 Elm Street. That's the building right on the corner of East and Elm. Some kids, 5 juveniles, entered that building through an unlocked door, wreaked some havoc inside, damaged some things, stole a couple of items. There was video that was obtained from our detectives. They went in and processed the scene, collected evidence, and obtained the video. They quickly identified the suspects as kids that we have dealt with in the past. They were able to identify them, recover the stolen property, and charge them in juvenile court. So all ended well there. And finally, on October 18th, we had a swatting incident at the high school, which garnered some media attention. I'm sure you were well aware of this, but our dispatchers received a call from a Veterans Crisis Hotline. There was a person inside the bathroom at the high school, one of the many bathrooms up there, with a rifle, and they were threatening to shoot the school. Officers responded to the property right away and immediately made entry as soon as they had an entry team. They cleared the building within about 30 minutes, which is pretty good, I thought, and was able to quickly bring that to a resolution. It caused a lot of issues with some people. They were very nervous about what took place, rightfully so. And we did some work with the school. We debriefed after that incident to kind of find out what we could do better going forward. And there were some things we took away from that, although I'm very pleased with our response. I'm proud of the officers that responded that day and how the supervisors managed that scene. We took some things away from that we can do better going forward, so we took that as a learning experience. But again, this is the sad reality we live in now, that these things are happening at schools across the state and across the country. So we shared information with the FBI and the Commonwealth Fusion Center where all of these cases get dumped into as almost a clearinghouse for information. We've in the subpoena process now with the carrier from where the call came from, to trying to obtain more information, but right now we're kind of in a holding pattern with that, but the feds are involved in that investigation as well. In terms of stats, we had 3,081 calls to service in quarter 4, down from about 3,951 in quarter 3. We had 16 arrests this quarter, which is the exact same as quarter 3. Overdoses, we had one non-fatal overdose in this quarter. It was a non-resident that overdosed off of Route 1. So we're at 5 for the year with no fatalities, thankfully, and that's down from 7 at this time last year. Longview Farm, 20 calls in quarter 4, which is down from 42 last quarter. We're at about 197 this year, which is down from over 200 last year, so that's a good sign. Mental health calls were at 595 through the end of October, which is a similar pace to where we were last year, which we ended up with just over 750. So I think we'll be on track to be close to that, maybe a little bit lower, but that's still a significant source of calls for us. In terms of training, all of our firearms instructors and less lethal weapons instructors were all recertified. Our DT instructors were also recertified, as we do a lot of our own training in-house. We had some sergeants attend a leadership conference, which is what we're trying to push out now to get our first line leaders trained. They went to a 5-day conference with the MPTC, and myself and Lieutenant White attended a firearms legal update with all the changes in the firearms law and licensing. That was a necessity for us. In terms of personnel, we lost one officer to a transfer to Brookline PD. Officer Timpany left there at the end of last month. We wish him all the best. Coming up, Sergeant Jim O'Connell and Dispatcher Cindy Jackman will be retiring after 30 and 20 years respectively with service to the town. So we're in the process right now of replacing the Dispatcher Jackman, and we're going to have some internal interviews in the next few weeks to get prepared for Sergeant O'Connell's departure, so we can have a little overlap there to make sure that the new sergeant gets the ground running and there's no overlap. In terms of community policing, SRO Hawk conducted all the critical incident drills at every single school, which proved to be very important. In the most recent incident that we had, the school handled themselves incredibly well, and that's certainly for their own internal training, but also thanks to SRO Hart and his training. He also has been attending the monthly Drug and Alcohol Coalition meetings that the Health Department puts on, as well as the CIT, Crisis Intervention mental health meetings with area mental health professionals. In terms of some of the initiatives we had this quarter, our dispatch did a school drive that they do every year. They collected a ton of school supplies, and they were able to distribute those to all the schools in town so the teachers could have extra stuff to use with the kids. We had the Halloween parade. Our officers attended that, and also the following event, that was hosted by the rec department. We were fortunate enough to have a bunch of candy donated from Walmart, and we used that candy to hand out to the kids at that event. So we had a bunch of officers take place in that, which was good. We had our annual Coffee with a Cop at the COA Health Fair next door to us. Always well attended by those residents, and the officers had a good time there. It's always a very good event for us, and we get to interact with those folks. It's fun. Coats for Vets, we collaborated with our VSO, Ian Rogers, to distribute winter coats. We collected them at Gillette Stadium and brought them back to be distributed out to vets in need, both here at the VFW. So our officers took part in that. And at New Pond Village, Sergeant O'Connor held the annual informational presentation about common scams that target the senior citizens in town. Again, this continues to be a problem with us as well, so he got a lot of information out there for them, things to be aware of and things to keep in mind before they send money to people they don't know, which has unfortunately been a common thing. And last but not least, we assisted with the 300th parade. Bill's here tonight. He was on the committee, did a great job with that parade. It was very well attended, very well done. I want to thank all of our officers for the amount of support we had for that. We asked everyone to come in. They did so without any issues. Lieutenants White and Becker were incredibly instrumental in that, in planning that, which took a tremendous amount of planning. So my thanks to them as well for that effort. It went very well, and I think it was a great event for the town. So that is all I have. With that, if any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. You and your officers continue to do a great job taking drugs off the street. I love to hear that, and engaging with the community. So keep it up. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Open it up to the board if anyone has any questions or comments or concerns.
I just had a quick question. On the annual training and recertifications that you mentioned,
Yeah.
is that something that's rolling throughout the year, or does that happen at like one time?
It happens at one time.
Just at one time?
Yes. So with our internally, we shoot twice a year with the quals that we do internally, and we have to do everything by a certain date, June 30th, for our annual in-service. depending on when the officers were originally certified, they have to get recertified at different times, but when their certification is up, so it's either 2 years or 1 year, depending on what they're doing. So we need to make sure that, we try to do a lot of our stuff in-house, so it keeps our officers engaged, and we train on kind of our own, so we keep that certification up, so they're constantly doing that.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Ellie?
No, thank you. Thank you for the report. Lots of great information.
Thank you.
That's it?
Yep.
It actually ended on a positive note with just a comment on something that I don't think I've seen before, which is the folding of the American flag at Blessed Sacrament. Sergeant Pat
Yes.
O'Connor.
Yep.
I don't know if this, and Sergeant, not Sergeant, but SRO Tommy Hart went to Blessed Sacrament School and worked with some of the students on how to properly fold and take care of the American flag. I think it's a great idea. Obviously, there's a reason why you're doing it. I don't know that you've done it with the public schools yet, or if you haven't, or if you have, great, and if you haven't.
Yeah, no, it's been a thing at Blessed Sacrament. They've reached out and asked us to take part in that over the past couple of years. They've gone up a few times and done it.
I think it's great. If any schools, if any principals are listening to this and want to reach out to the police department, I'm sure that you'd be happy to continue to do it
Anytime.
and extend it. That's great.
I'm happy to do it anytime. Yep.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right, and the fire chief's quarterly report. Chief Barry. Welcome back.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here before you this evening. Last time we were before the board was September 9th, and to date, the department has done 6,900 calls. That's 4,300 calls in runs or responses that we had to respond somewhere, and 2,600 inspections. The runs, that's up 357 from where we were last year, which was up from the year before, which is up from the year before. So as I sound like a broken record, but we're continuously being busier and busier and busier each year. And my hat's off to our firefighters and fire officers that are doing yeoman's work and day in, day out, and responding to these calls with professionalism and exemplary service. And I greatly appreciate the effort that they put in, day out. For our incidents, we had one fire this year, this quarter. It was a working fire, and the quick action of Group 1 had a quick extinguishing, or knockdown, as we say, and prevented a much larger and much more extensive damage to the home and vehicles within the garage. Great job to them. Mutual aid, that's been the story for this quarter as well. Structure fires, we've gone to Norwood a couple of times. We've gone to Sharon, and we've gone to Norfolk. This weekend was particularly busy. Friday we were in Norwood, Sunday we were in Norfolk, and yesterday we were back in Norwood again for their fire. Great work by all the groups. All the incident commanders from all those fires expressed their gratitude and the hard work and effort that our firefighters put in at those mutual aid fires. So again, great work to them. The incident of this fall has been the brush fires, and we've responded extensively to that, from a task force up to Middleton, to down to Braintree, to Milton, to Foxborough, all over the place. And again, those are labor-intensive and dangerous fires that usually long duration and tedious work and dirty work. Again, thanks to the hard work of the firefighters at those jobs. It's not just a campfire that we're going to, so great job to them, and we appreciate the work that they've done. We also thank our residents for their support and cooperation as we move forward from an unprecedented fall fire season. We remind residents to continue using caution and common sense whenever they're dealing with fire, whether inside or outside. We were fortunate. I hate to almost jinx us, but we were fortunate. We did not have any brush fires during this season, so great work to the residents, and thanks, and the diligence of the firefighters going out and advising our residents that did have something going on, so well done. Our last report that I have, our drought is at critical level, which is one step below the emergency level. So a reminder that open burning season, as of right now, is still scheduled for January 15th through May 1st, and that's only brush. We'll reevaluate that situation as time gets closer, but it's only brush during those time frames. So. MCI Cedar Junction, we've responded once this past quarter, and that was November 30th. There was an alarm activation for no reason, so the crew made their way inside and determined that there was no issue, reset the alarm, and notified the Department of Corrections of the situation. That was the only incident we have there. Our personnel, we still have 2 members out IOD. We're working with them. They're working with their medical providers to get them back on service. Firefighters Bosworth and Dacey graduated the Fire Academy yesterday. Firefighter Bosworth reported to duty today. Firefighter Dacey reported to duty today. Fire Bosworth reports tomorrow. So we're excited to get them on shift, working with us. I see long, successful careers, both of them. We're excited to get them back. Firefighter Ganya earned his paramedic license this past quarter as well. Congratulations to him on his hard work. We're excited to get him completely satisfied. He's academy trained and now is a paramedic, so it's great to get him fully functioning with us. We finally received words on our grants. We were denied all 3 of them. We've just come past our 5 years, which was what we were kind of unofficially told. What the recommendation was, we probably would not be too successful during our grants during that time frame from when the engine was awarded to us. So we're hoping the tide changes now. The AFG is open. Chief Sharella is working on that grant application now, so we'll have that submitted, and the fire prevention grant and the SAFER grant will open up as well. So we'll continue actively participate in those processes and hopefully be a little more successful again. So let's see. Fire prevention, again, the broken record. Deputy Hover is extremely busy with all the commercial projects that we have going on. Site plan reviews with the planning board and working with the zoning board. So busy individual with a lot of activity going on in town, as everybody knows. Deputy Tebow, who's presented before last meeting, is on board and has been very active in a short time. He jumped right into the deep end, or was pushed into the deep end, however you look at it, but he's been busy since day one. Right off the bat, he worked with our ambulance license renewal process with Lieutenant Abramovitz and Firefighter Gavin. A tedious process that's certified through the state, so good job to him where the license was renewed, so we're good to go. But it's a time-consuming process and first time into it, so great job to all 3 of them for getting us through that. Deputy Tito is extensively conducting on-duty training, which is great, what we're looking for, and we're excited to see that. He's doing a great job with that for us. Training aspect, we've completed our CPR refresher, and all paramedics, their year was their ALS refresher was up this year as well, so they conducted their on-duty training for that, and completed that. And as call volume permits, the duty groups are conducting on-duty training as well. Mentoring and working with our new firefighters, as you know, we have a lot of them, so the experienced firefighters are working with our newer people and sharing their knowledge and bringing everybody up to speed. In November, we completed a very extensive mandatory survey ordered by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to collect information about costs, revenue, and utilization, and other operational details from ambulance services. We were ordered to do it this year. This was to evaluate and potentially adjust Medicare Part B ambulance payment rates based on the collected data. And when I say we, I actually mean Mary Timothy, Jody Cuneo, Lisa Sinkus, Patrick Shield, Assistant Chief Sharella, Deputy Chief Tebow. That was a very extensive project. We had a short time to get that done, and they turned it in early for us, and they dug deep and got it done, and I appreciate the hard work that they did. There was penalties if we didn't get it done, and I appreciate the hard work they did. Open house was conducted coordinated by Lieutenant Armstrong, our SAFE coordinator. It was very, very well attended this year. We coincided with the Halloween parade, and very active down there at that time. Many thanks to all the members who helped participate and make it a successful day for our guests. A note, our senior breakfast will be held at the COA January 10th this year, or 2025, so that's coming up. We're excited for that. A couple sad notes. On September 22nd, retired Captain Still Lightbody passed away. He was Captain Lightbody was one of our first 12 first-time full firefighters back in 1974. I served the department for 32 years, serving many of those years as our SAFE coordinator as well, coordinating the open house, coordinating us going into the schools. He'll be greatly missed, and was a great resource for our department. Today, actually, marks the 25th anniversary of the Worcester Cold Storage Fire, one of the most devastating firefighters the Commonwealth has seen, and probably the most devastating since I've seen in my career as a Massachusetts firefighter. And the Worcester Fire Department and those families are in our thoughts right now. With that, I thank the board and take any questions if you may have.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate you and appreciate your department taking care of the town for the last 3 months, and good to see you again. Does anyone on the board have any questions, comments, concerns? Mark?
Do we have anybody still waiting for the fire academy, or?
We have one employee right now.
Okay.
His date hasn't been cemented just yet, but he's on board now. He's a basic EMT.
Okay.
He's working through the process to, he'll be just got cleared to ride with us for his paramedic observation hours right now.
Great.
So trying to coordinate all those moving parts to get everything going.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say, this last quarter, I'm sure it was a lot with the increased calls and the unprecedented fires from brush fires and the drought, that it must have been a very trying last quarter and last few months.
It was nervous times. There's a lot of smoke coming away from the Blue Hills, coming around and driving around town. We did a lot of chasing, a lot of odors through that area, but again, firefighters did a great job going out and diligently following up on those. Residents did a nice job giving us a call on those inquiries, and said everybody seemed to do a decent job keeping an eye on containing whatever they thought they could contain, and we just much appreciation to everybody for coordinating with us. Thank you.
Great. Great.
Thanks.
Good to see you again. Thanks. Parker Elmore is here and ready to talk to us from Odyssey Advisors about our OPEB actuarial audit review. A few minutes early. I assume you don't mind starting a few minutes early, Parker?
I'm ready whenever you guys are.
All right. Well, welcome. Would you mind just taking us through this? There's a lot of information.
Sure. I mean, if you want, I have a presentation I put together for you guys, but
Sounds great.
if not, I'm happy to just talk to you in general. So, I don't know if I can share the presentation or not. Okay, I can. Okay, that's even better. All right. So here's a quick presentation I put together for you guys. And again, don't feel like you have to wait to the end. You can stop anytime and ask questions. I won't be offended at all. So I'll give you the quick 30-second overview about our firm. We've been doing this stuff for a very long time. I've been doing it since the late 80s. Firm was founded in '98. We work with 500 plus municipalities. We're in 37 states, Europe, South America, Australia. We got a huge presence in Massachusetts, so we work with many of your peers. So we do quite a bit of this stuff. Anyway, enough about us. So why do we do this thing in the first place? Why did Gatsby come along and mess up a perfectly good thing? Everything was pay as you go. Everybody was happy. Why did we go and mess all this up? Well, I mean, the basic idea was that we wanted to standardize the methods. When I say we, I mean Gatsby and the financial community. So that the town of Walpole was doing it in a similar way to the city of Boston, the city of Los Angeles, some random town in Alabama. Everybody's doing it the same way. So if I'm looking at a financial statement, I can figure out what are the medical benefits provided by the town of Walpole, what do they cost versus some other towns somewhere else. So it gives me a better idea about the town's ability to meet their obligations when they come due, which obviously if I'm buying one of your bonds, that's something I care about. So that's really why we have all this whole accrual accounting, basic GAAP accounting 101. Okay, so what happened? Last year you had a liability, total OPEB liability about $73 million. This year it's 71.7, so it's down modestly. The fiduciary net position, what most people call assets, went from 9.2 million to 12.2 million, so a very good year. Thank you to you guys for your contributions and the folks at Bartholomew for what they're doing. Which means, therefore, the net OPEB liability, or the unfunded, went from 63.7 million down to 59.4 million. So you made pretty significant progress in that. Now, part of that, as you saw, the assets went up by $3 million. The other part of that is the interest rate went up from 6.06 to 6.77. Now, the interest rate has a lot of different factors that go into it, but in your case, it really has to do with what the investment community thinks future investments are going to return by asset class. And so under the Gatsby methodology, if you are more aggressively invested, you will get to use a higher discount rate, which therefore means you'll get to show a lower liability. Now, we can argue whether it should or shouldn't be that way, but that's the way the rules are set up. So you guys have a more aggressive portfolio. That means you get to use a higher discount rate, therefore it means you get to show a lower liability. So you guys right now are 17% funded, which I know in some respects sounds awful. Oh my God, we're only 17% funded. I will tell you that puts you in about the top 25% across the state. So even at 17%, you're in the top quartile. So, it's the best house in a bad neighborhood argument. You guys are doing well compared to your peers. On the income side of the equation, this doesn't really matter that much in a municipal context. It's more of in the private sector, we talk about earnings and earnings per share and bonuses and so on. That's not really applicable here, but the thing I guess I would draw your eyes to is the service cost. This is the value of benefits being earned during the year by active employees. And so it's about $2,200 per employee. So I tell people the way to think about this is if Joe or Mary works for you and makes $50,000 a year, think about they're getting another $2,200 or so in change of a fringe benefit payable in retirement in the form of medical benefits. So it's just when you figure out your fringe cost, don't forget to count OPEB as part of that fringe cost. So, what happened? What drove numbers up? What drove numbers down? Well, the interest rate that I spoke about, that cut almost $6 million off your liabilities. Okay, that's great. Now I was in a meeting a couple hours ago with a different town. I would say that's kind of a phantom savings because nothing really changed. Just the financial community thought you would earn more money in the future, therefore we cut your liability. Great. On the other hand, premiums went up by less than expected. That cut your cost by about $1 million. That's real money. I mean, that's actual cash savings. Now, we also changed our forecast of future healthcare cost increases. That increased your liability by $1.1 million. And you had more people retire over the year than we expected. That increased your liabilities by about $2.3 million. I will tell you that's not unusual. In the last couple of years, we're seeing higher retirements than we've been expecting. We've also seen higher turnover than we've expected in the last couple of years. So I don't know if this is a post-COVID hangover or if this is something we're going to see going forward. So it's something we'll have to monitor over the next couple of years to see if this is recurring or a kind of a one-off. So we'll have a better idea for the next couple of years how that works out. So what are all these magic actuarial assumptions that we use to create this, huge liability we put on your books? The interest rate we spoke about, there's a lot of factors to go into it, but in your case, based on how well you're funded, the main issue is your investment portfolio. More aggressive equals a higher rate. Termination rates, what's the probability that somebody you hired today at 25 is still there at 26, 27, 28? Okay, that's great. They make retirement age of 55. What's the probability they retire at 55, 56, 57? Okay. They decide to retire. What's the probability they elect to take benefits? What's the probability they elect to cover a spouse? And after all of that, what are future healthcare costs going to be in the year 2030, 2050, 2070? So we have a complicated model that reflects GDP, healthcare as a percentage of GDP, general inflation, utilization, all kinds of complexity. Here's the reality. If you assume about 4.4% a year, you end up at basically the same number. So, as actuaries, we have a model we kind of have to use to say that it's a reasonable model, but honestly, a simplified model will get you to pretty much the same place. In terms of the benefits we're valuing, you guys have comprehensive medical and a Medicare supplement plan. Your average single cost for a healthcare plan is about $973 a month. Your Medicare supplement is about $370 a month. Your active plan is, slightly higher than the average of what we see. Your Medicare supplement plan is slightly below the average of what we see, but they're both very close to the average. You're maybe a couple % high on the actives and maybe 5% lower than average on the Medicare supplement. So again, you're very much where your peers are. And next slide. So the always important, how do I stack up? Well, if I look at the towns, you have to be 21% funded to be in the 80th percentile. In other words, top 20%. You guys at about 17%, again, are about the 75th percentile or top quarter. Now, you will see that cities are very poorly funded, not a huge surprise. And utilities are very well funded, again, not a huge surprise. But the very simple reason on the utility side, they can build it into their rates. So your water department, they can charge an extra penny for water. The light department can charge an extra penny per kilowatt to get funding. Same with the gas department. So they're much easier for them to fund their OPEB. For you guys, it's a lot harder to go to your taxpayers, go, hey, we're going to raise your taxes by 5% every year to fund OPEB. I mean, you could do it, I'm sure, but it's not going to be well received. As far as peer group, again, everyone, who you guys compare yourself to, I don't necessarily know. We try to look at people geographically and size-wise. Again, you guys have a higher discount rate than most because you guys are more aggressively invested and have more money than most. You're much higher than the statewide average for a discount rate. Your service cost per person we spoke about was about $2,250. The statewide average is almost $4,200. Again, that's because they're using a lower discount rate and therefore they have a higher liability. That $60 million net liability, that unfunded, is 17% funded. Foxborough is about 32% funded. Everybody else much below that. In the case of Foxborough, as I was explaining to people, they have a little football team that plays there that helps on a meals tax. So if you guys could get another football team to come to Walpole, then maybe you guys could do that too, but unfortunately, probably not going to happen. On the benefit side, you guys are about $5,000 per retiree for cost. The statewide average is about $6,000. Some towns a little higher, some a little lower. But again, you guys are in good shape in that regard. Now, that service cost per active employee, that $2,250, that varies by department. The one I really guide you to is fire and police. Theirs is always going to be higher. Now, it's for a very simple reason. They tend to retire earlier due to the nature of their career, which therefore means they accrue the benefit over a shorter period of time, and they receive the benefit over a longer period of time. So therefore, they have a higher liability, which is accrued over a shorter period of time. Not surprisingly, the service cost or annual accrual will be higher for them. Again, nothing surprising. It's what you would kind of expect, but I just point that out to you. And the all-important time to play Nostradamus here and predict the future. What does the future look like? Well, you can see your liability is supposed to go from 71 million to 254 million over the next 40 years. Now, here's the thing. Those numbers get to be spooky, and your thought is going, why even try? So about 10 or 12 years ago, we had those conversations with clients. We decided, let's put everything in present value terms, in today's dollars. And your number goes from 71 million to 80 million over the next 40 years. So it goes up by about 12%. And your pay-as-you-go cost goes from 3.1 million to 4.1 million over the same 40 years. So it goes by about 30% over 40 years. So you can solve those problems with very modest changes, nothing really crazy. And your guys right now, with your current funding policy of putting in $800,000 a year and then utilizing basically a portion of the pension funding when it becomes available, you guys are on a target to be fully funded for OPEB in about 2043. And at that point in time, as opposed to putting money in, you'd be taking out $4.5 million a year out of the OPEB trust, which will make the budget in 2043 will be very happy taxpayers in 2043 that you guys, did the right things and addressed this issue. And, as I was talking to a client earlier today doing one of these presentations, I know the answer is always going, why are we doing this? This is stupid. We could spend the money on other things. But here's the reality. Massachusetts is currently third in terms of net taxpayer-supported debt per capita in the country. So the state has a lot of debt. They're not going to be able to come in and bail you out. On top of that, demographic trends would tell you that the Northeast is a stable to shrinking population. So this is not an area, we're not Phoenix, we're not Miami, we're not Austin, Texas, where a bunch of people are moving here. You're going to have to spread these costs over an ever smaller number of people and an aging population. So the reality is, it's never going to be easier to fund the OPEB than it is today. As hard as that is to believe, this is the easy time now. So I really encourage people to, as hard as it might be to continue doing it, I really encourage you to do so, because it's only going to get harder the longer you wait. And the people in 2043 are not going to have the money to do it. There's just not going to be enough of them to do it. So that's pretty much what I got. I'm happy to answer questions, comments, concerns, whatever anybody may have.
And that's great, Parker. Thanks so much. There's a lot of information there. Some good news, even though we're talking about liabilities, there's some good news in the sense that it's slightly decreasing from previous years. I'm just going to open it up to the board and see what kind of questions we might have, if anyone has any. Mark, you've been here the longest. Do you have anything? Comments?
Yeah, does anything jump out at you that we can do to lower our OPEB liability over time?
Yeah, there are things you can do. The biggest, here's the thing. Medicare supplement plans is where the money is. And so it's easy to sit here and say, oh, gee, I can change whatever. Well, the reality is, the Medicare supplement plans, a big portion of that is prescription drugs. So the question is, are you willing to go to a less generous prescription drug formulary, and/or that's really about it, because you guys are already charging the Medicare supplement people 50%. That's the most you're allowed to charge them. So it's really going to be, it's on the prescription drugs. Now, you guys have already gone to a less generous prescription drug plan, I want to say, 6 or 7 years ago. So I guess there is one other one you can do, get some bad press. I mean, individuals have used it. And my caution is always going, make sure you understand what you're buying. And the answer here is Medicare Advantage plans. You'll see the Joe Namath, Jimmy Walker, call, give them your zip code, free benefits, yada, yada, yada. Those plans are fine if you understand what they are. They're an HMO. They do not, you can't go to any doctor you want anymore. In Medicare, I can go to any doctor, basically in the United States. With a Medicare Advantage plan, I go to the doctors that are in their network. There was a good article in the Wall Street Journal I posted on our newsletter about a week or two ago, talking about a lot of unhealthier people are starting to try and come back to Medicare because they found, guess what, their Medicare Advantage plan doesn't want to cover services. It's great if you're healthy. If you're sick, you're going to find the Medicare Advantage plan is probably not what you hoped it was going to be. So they are cheaper, and we've seen some towns go in that direction, but just be aware of you understand what you're buying, I guess is my point.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm not proposing we do anything. I was just wondering what options we have as we look forward. So,
Oh, exactly. That's what I just like to point it out to you so you know, that's all.
The other thing that jumped out at me, and this is probably a little bit of a question for Jim as well, the number of active participants went up quite a bit this year. Is that sort of
Yeah.
a normal thing, or was this a big year for us? Or?
Well, we talked to you guys, we went through this multiple times and, evaluated it 9 ways to Sunday, and thankfully Jody, Lisa, and their team do a great job, and they did some research on it. And basically, my recollection is it really came down to the schools did some hiring, and, certainly if they're there, they can chime in, but that's my notes on it is it came back to, again, the schools did some hiring, and we went back and forth on this several times to make sure that, because again, it is a big number, and we wanted to make sure that everybody, agreed with the numbers, and they came back and said, yes, those numbers are legit, so we definitely did research that.
So from our perspective, and I know Mike's here he can speak to this specific question. On our end, Jody and Lisa worked with Jody Delpha in the HR upstairs. They were able to identify approximately 35 newly created positions and benefit eligible positions, and about 57 positions that weren't caught in the FY22 actuarial audit. So if you have any specific questions about those 35 or so positions, I know Mike can address those specifically. And I know they've been kind of working through this to figure out where did those come from. But from 22 to 24, that's where the discrepancy is there.
Okay, yeah, what I just saw was it went up about 10%, 84 people.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if something has changed in hiring where a higher percentage of people are taking the insurance versus I know sometimes people have a choice, they can go with their spouse's plan. So,
Kind of a combination, I think, of people electing to come on the plan and some new hires that weren't there before.
Yeah, and just to clarify, those counts reflect whether or not they are eligible, not whether or not they are taking insurance. So that 832 says there's 832 people that are eligible for benefits. The number of people taking benefits is far less than that. But that's just letting know who is eligible, that's all.
So does that affect our liability? Are we accepting liability for somebody who's not yet taking insurance?
Correct, because so let's just back up on the assumptions. The theory is that Johnny or Mary or whoever who's actively employed today, they may not be on your insurance today, they're on a spouse's plan, for whatever reason they're not on your insurance. But that doesn't mean they will never come on your insurance. Whereas Jimmy, who's on your insurance today, may not take the coverage in retirement. So what we do is we assume that 80% of those eligible who make it to retirement will elect coverage. So maybe there's a person today who doesn't have it, they may pick up insurance over the next 30 years. There's somebody who has insurance today, they may drop it over the next 30 years. So the idea of the law of large numbers is that by taking the larger pool, we get a more representative sample about what retirement's going to look like.
Okay, thanks, that's helpful.
Yep.
Ben?
Yeah, I just had one quick question for you.
Yeah.
You had referred to our discount rate as due to investments that were, I can't remember the name, the language.
They're more aggressive.
Aggressive.
You're more-
I was
more
going to say
aggressive
risky.
portfolio,
I
yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
use that word. Aggressive. Could you just describe that a little more in a little more detail? I mean, what does that mean in terms
Yeah,
of? What
yeah,
we're doing
so what it
with
means is, so again, under the GASB methodology, the discount rate is developed for each individual asset class. So we have an assumed rate of return for large cap equities, small cap equities, international fixed income, private equity, real estate, cash, you name it. And so your guys' portfolio is about a 70% equity, AKA stock market, 30% bonds, fixed income portfolio. Now, again, if you guys decided, hey, listen, we don't want to take any risk at all, we want to be entirely in cash, we want to be all in treasuries, you could do that. Your discount rate would be more like, 4.25%. And this is something that you have to do it on pension plans. We do it on OPEB. If you were to do that, it would increase your liability by about $29 million. So the point about being more aggressive in your portfolio or having a more broader exposure to the equity market allows you to take $29 million off your liabilities by virtue of using that higher discount rate. And that's why I said, we can argue whether you should or shouldn't, that should or shouldn't be part of the equation, but that's the way the GASB has set up the model. So by having a more equity exposure, you get to use a much higher discount rate, which therefore means you get to show a much lower liability.
Got it. Thank you.
Does that sort of make sense?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
Thanks, Paco. Ally, do you have anything else?
No, I mean, I had a question about the employees, which Mark brought up, and I think overall, this is always a great annual report for us and seeing where we're at and how we can, I think we're on a good track, but if there's anything we can do to kind of tweak that and get to that goal faster. So, thank you.
I think you guys are in great shape, and again, it's hard. It's a long-term, 20-plus year slog, and I get that. But you guys are doing the right things. It's hard to stay at it because it's easy to, at any point in time, to jump off and go, I'm tired of this. But you're doing the right things.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one more comment for people listening at home. We as a board, along with the finance committee, and thanks to Jim and the finance team, made a decision, I don't remember how many years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, where we take a percentage of free cash and we drive it right into OPEB. So we contribute 2.5% of the first $2 million in free cash and 7.5% of the remaining free cash annually. So what that means is in good times, we contribute more, and in lean times, we contribute less. But I think it was a great policy decision that was made because it really helps us focus in on OPEB every year, which is important. And, I just wanted to bring that up because that's a really good thing that we did. And I appreciate Jim and the finance team and the finance committee helping us, get to that point where we can make that decision, so.
Great. Thanks, Paco. I appreciate you coming in and going through that with us.
Sounds great. If you guys need anything else, you know where I'm at.
All right, wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
All right, so we can move on. We have Finance Director Jody Cunigo is here to talk about ARPA funding with an update. Jim, do you want to talk
Sure.
about that? Yeah.
So basically, just kind of an overview of where we stand with our ARPA funds. And we're looking for a vote from the select board. As you may recall, the ARPA funds need to be designated on it before the end of this month and make sure that they're spent within the next 2 years. Right now, all our funds are locked up. We have about $30,782 in accrued interest for our ARPA project. So we're requesting that the select board vote to use current and future investment income for this to fund the Walpole High School renovation project. So some of the other projects, just a side note, Mark had asked me on the way in, that actually were approved for a certain amount and we only spent a certain amount. So I'll give you an example. The Willis treatment plant, that was approved for $1.1 million and we spent $958,000. So it's a difference of about $167,000. All of those leftover funds were returned to the Norfolk County commissioners, and then we had to repurpose it for other projects, and to keep things simple, we repurposed it just to go to the high school, to still that one project, so we weren't doing other projects with that, which is one of the reasons we were able to do so much with the free cash funds this year for the other projects throughout town.
Does Norfolk County have any money left over that we could spend between now and the end of the year, or encumber?
We asked, I think the Assistant County Commissioner will confirm, they are all spent, so, Brookline was taking their time spending their money, and some of us were hopeful they wouldn't spend it, but they're using it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just worth a thought, so.
And we're talking about $7.9 million is what we received, and we will have spent all of it by the deadlines that we've been asked to, and there's no reason to leave any money on the table, and we haven't done that. So good job to you and your team for spending the money on good, projects that have long-term impact in Walpole.
Thank you.
So, does anyone else have any questions on ARPA?
I'll make a motion to allocate any and all future ARPA interest income to the Walpole High School project.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote 4-0. Okay, we can move on to, I'm going to skip open forum for now, just not until 8 o'clock, and we have a few more minutes for that. We could vote to renew the following, a number of license categories for 2025 as issued by the Select Board. We have a motion for that?
Sure, motion to renew Section 15 off-premises, Farmers Winery pouring permit, Section 12 on-premise weekday and Sunday entertainment, parking lots, hotel, motel, lodging house, common victualers, Class 1, 2, 3 motor vehicle, and automatic amusement devices for 2025 as issued by the Select Board.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's 4-0. Okay, and we can move on to the next motion. We have a vote request of the Friends of St. Patrick for their annual parade on March 14th of next year.
Motion to approve the request of Friends of St. Patrick's to hold the annual parade on March 14th, 2025, beginning at 11:25 to 11:30, and block a section of Main Street between Stone and Common at the conclusion of the parade for approximately 15 minutes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Okay, and the consent agenda, please.
Motion to approve the consent items as listed on the December 3rd agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0. And we can move, we can go to open forum. I do not believe anybody's here for that, so we can move on to the town administrator's update.
Sure, just a few items here. Finance Committee is set to meet with DPW, Police Department, Fire Department on Monday, December 16th. Select Board's welcome to join. Just more or less, we've done this the third or fourth year in a row, just to talk with the major departments in town about their needs, for the upcoming fiscal year. Just let Aoife and I know so we can post a meeting if there's a quorum.
What time is that going to be? I know you mentioned
It'll
it.
be 7 o'clock.
Okay, I'll be there.
Okay. High school renovation, project's underway. We worked through the Thanksgiving game and the playoff game that was hosted here for football, and they're expected to start the footings for the gym in January. So all the work that's occurring right now is for the new parking area that's going to be taken up in January by the footing. So we're basically creating parking for the students and the faculty there. That'll be permanent once it's done. And FY26 budgets, all the budgets are in. I'm starting to review the various requests with Jody. I'm hoping to make some progress and get it balanced towards the end of this month, early January sometime. And just to follow up on the dam discussion you had at your last meeting, I'm working on basically putting together a position statement to address a lot of the questions that board members had, specifically about the impacts of keeping it as is, going back to a river / stream. What are the impacts on the building projects around there? How does it affect really everything? I've asked department heads, town council to kind of answer a bunch of questions for me, and I'm going to compile those into one document, so you'll have that. And I'm expecting that you probably have DCR in sometime this winter to have another discussion with them as to what's the next steps we need to take. So more to come on that. That's it.
Any questions for Jim?
I have one suggestion. I thought that ARPA made me think of it. I think we did a good job when the ARPA funds came in of looking ahead beyond what's even on our capital request list for 5 years of projects that we know are going to be coming. So after the budget process, I would suggest we take another look at that and, look downstream 10, 20 years. And just sort of think about, we know we've got elementary school projects, we know, we have dams, but just really give that some thought, just, because people always ask me, what do we spend our money on when we look forward? And I always tell them there's just a huge list of projects that we probably should spend money on, as we look ahead for 20 years. But I thought that was really helpful when we did that for ARPA, and it's probably be worth doing it again.
Sure.
And again, low priority compared to the budget and all that, so.
We can build off of what we have for ARPA and work off of our debt sheet that Jody and I have had going for the past few years, so, sure.
Great.
All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. We're adjourned.